Hey there, bibliophiles and those raising bibliophiles. Without ratings and warning labels, finding which books are appropriate for your children to read is like navigating wild terrain without a compass and a map. I don't know about you, but I have been burned more than once handing my child a book that I thought was clean and appropriate. I'm a fellow mom, educator, reading specialist, and literary enthusiast trying to find great books for my children and yours to read. If you're looking for real reviews from a real mom with a biblical worldview, then welcome and enjoy this week's book review. This week's book review is another book in a series, The Pages and Co. And I did Book Wanderers last year, and a couple weeks ago, I did the second book in the Lost Fairy Tales, and book number 3 is called The Map of Stories. And just like I've done in the past, I'm actually going to start with reading just a little bit of the opening just to give you an idea of the writing style, the characters, and where we're jumping in. So the beginning of chapter 1 is titled A Proper Plan. I'm looking for a book. Matilda and her granddad looked up from writing recommendation cards for the shelves to see a man standing in front of them at the counter of Pages & Co. The shop was quiet as golden hour sunlight dripped in through the tall windows, so everything felt sleepy and peaceful. Well, we can definitely help you with that, Granddad said, glad of a customer. Which book was it? I can't quite remember the title, I'm afraid, the man went on. Or the author, now that I come to think of it, but I know that it has a blue cover. Or at least I think so. Can you remember anything about what's inside? Granddad said encouragingly. Tilly grinned. She loved watching him work out which book somebody wanted, what from whatever tiny bits of information they could remember. Not really, the man said vaguely. How strange. I came to the shop specifically to pick this book up. It was my favorite when I was little. Or was it my mom's favorite? It slips my mind, and now I'm here, I can't remember the first thing about it. Maybe it wasn't so special after all. Sounds like it meant a lot to you once upon a time, Granddad said. I'm sure I can make some educated guesses if you can remember anything at all, or maybe we could help you find something different to read. That's very kind of you, the man said politely, although he was already glancing back at the door. But honestly, and I know this is wrong to say in a bookshop, just don't seem to care anymore. Granddad raised an eyebrow. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be rude, the man went on. It's just the more I think about it, the more I'm confused about what I even came in for. A book, Granddad reminded him, with a blue cover. I'm not sure it was even blue, the man said, shrugging. Oh well, thanks for your help, and with that, he was gone. How peculiar, Granddad said. People can't remember what they're looking for all the time, though, Tilly pointed out. Yes, but usually, if they've bothered to make it into the bookshop, they're a little more persistent, sometimes even quite annoyed that we can't immediately identify what they're looking for. He just seemed to forget what he even wanted as we spoke. Actually, there was another customer like that, Tilly said, remembering. The other day, a woman was just standing, staring at the bookshelf for about 10 minutes, not picking up any books or anything. And when I asked if I could help her find something, she said she wasn't sure and then wandered off. Yes, very strange, Granddad said, but his attention had been distracted by a list of numbers on the screen of the till. His brow furrowed in concern. Well, let's hope it's not a trend, he said. We've been selling fewer and fewer books over the last couple of months. Maybe it's just that it's finally getting warmer and people are getting excited about being outside, as if we didn't have enough to worry about. How are you coping without book wandering? I hate it, Tilly said vehemently. I hate that I can't do it. And that I can't talk to Anne or book wander with Oscar. And most of all, I hate the Underwoods could just take it away without asking. And so that's sort of the chapter 1 continues from there, but that just kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of the story. The fact that people are forgetting some of their favorite books has a little bit to do with what the Underwoods have been up to. And this series is by Anna James, and it is absolutely adorable series to start out with. But I have to say that there are some cautionary things in book 3, so I'm going to talk about those in just a moment. So this particular book picks up exactly where the book 2 leaves off. Melville and Decima are still up to their antics, and they're trying to make themselves immortal by binding and destroying the source editions of books. And if you're unsure of what any of that is, then I definitely encourage you to check out my website, holdingsteadfastreaders.com and get some more information that you can go in there and look and see. I keep all my book reviews for book series together. So if you go in there and you go book in a series and you just kind of scroll down and you'll find Pages & Co there. So you'll see book 1 and book 2 right there for you. And hopefully that easy access will be beneficial to you. I know busy moms, busy time. And so I want to try and make that as easy and accessible for you as possible. So book 3 picks up, like I said, just where those have left off. In this magical world, when the source edition is destroyed, then all other copies of that book are removed from the world. Before Tilly realizes fully that they're actually destroying books, she's determined to find the archivists to gain their help in stopping the Underwoods from keeping others from wandering, book wandering itself. Before Tilly realizes fully that they're actually destroying books, she is determined to find the archivists. And you see a little bit of that in book 2. And she is trying to gain their help and hoping that they're going to help her stop the Underwoods from destroying book wandering altogether. However, when she finds the archivists, much of what she was hoping for does not come to fruition. So in this particular book, we know in book 1, Tilly's mom, B, was stuck in a book. And so she gets relieved and brought back out in the end of book 1. In book 2, she's present, but not quite fully engaged in a lot of stuff that's taking place. In book 3, we definitely see more of her character coming up and she's taking a role. For good or bad, she does send Tilly and Oscar off to America on their own. And they are to be met by one of B's old friends and his husband. So, yep, you heard that right. The children are to be met and cared for in their attempt to search the Library of Congress for clues to the archivists by a homosexual couple, Orlando and Jorge. And I really wish that that hadn't been included. It is a significant part of the story. I will say that the two are present in the story for the first portion of the book, really up until page 103. After that, there's only mentions of them and curiosity about their safety. And while I'm not a fan of this introduction and I do find it entirely unnecessary, I will say that there are not any messages about the justification or ideals of such a relationship, like you see in Catherine Applegate's One and Only Bob. And so in that particular book, there is sort of this undertone of trying to justify. In this, it's just a mention. It's just a matter of fact. Nothing is explored. Nothing is discussed. Nevertheless, that is in the book. And so that's the cautionary thing that I wanted to make sure that parents who are operating from a biblical worldview, who have some concerns with things like that introduced in stories, to let you know that that is introduced. Orlando and Jorge are kind characters to the children. They are helping them investigate the Library of Congress. They try and keep the bad guys from them. So in themselves, the characters are not presented as nefarious in any way. They're actually helpful, but to make you aware that that is definitely in there, and that they're very active. So to a secular worldview, I'm sure that this doesn't even register as a blip, but I know that for those of you who are holding a biblical worldview, that it is something you need to consider. And that's why I put, a word of caution about this book. And quite frankly, I'm not going to recommend it. I will perhaps consider reading some of the other books in the series just to see if it's possible to skip one or what else is included in some of the later ones. So again, just wanting to let you know. And honestly, a quiet inclusion is still an inclusion. And so I know that it normalizes things, but we know what scripture says. And so as parents, ultimately, that's your choice. And I just want to let you know that that's in there so you can kind of make the right choice for you and your family. So other than the relationship of Orlando and Jorge, the book doesn't have any other cautionary material or profanity. Tilly and Oscar are just seeking to protect stories and imagination. New characters are added. Tilly and Oscar solve the problem of the source editions and trying to stop the Underwoods. And Will Shakespeare makes an appearance for the second half of the book. And he ultimately sacrifices himself to unbind and release the source editions. That's pretty much kind of the story in a nutshell. It is cute when Will Shakespeare's involved. I do love the exploration of imagination, that is really where the magic of books comes from. It's not the book itself. If you check out my full written review at holdingsteadfastreaders.com, you'll get way more details about some of the things that appear on different pages. And so I definitely would encourage you to go check that out. I have quotes, I have kind of things that might be of notable mention. Like, for example, God Forsaken is used a few times in the text. Jorge uses it once, and then the Underwoods use it once as well. Milo is another character that's added in the story. So I give you a little bit about Milo's situation in the story and what presents him. And then again, I wanted to really like this book and give like this hearty recommendation, because who doesn't love a book series that's about the power of books in the written word and stories and imagination? However, if the standard is aligning with biblical truth, then this book has to be a no, at least for me. And like I said, I'll kind of keep you updated if I decide to read some of the other ones. There have been times in the past where you were able to skip a book in a series and still kind of maintain what's going on in the story itself. And so, if that's something that would apply to this series, and I get around to reading, book 4 or 5, I'll definitely put out another book review and let you know. And hopefully, this book review is helpful to you. I thank you for joining me this week for the book review on Pages and Co. Map of Stories. And hopefully, you will join me next week for another book review.